This is a reading of a rare transcript from one of Ernest Holmes' Monday evening lectures from September 1918, which he made in Los Angeles, California. This transcript is from the book Love and Law. This is part 1 of the book, titled Fundamentals of Metaphysics. And this lecture given by Ernest Holmes is titled Relief from Responsibility. For the sake of those who are really in earnest, and of course no other person in metaphysics could expect anything else to arrive. We are not dealing with some kind of a spiritual gymnastics stunt or a mental hocus pocus that you make a few passes with your mind or spirit and something happens. We are dealing with scientific facts insofar as they are known of the things that govern our life. We're dealing with spirit and mind, with spirit and mind and matter, the great Trinity and unity, the great triune one, spirit as causation, as impulse, as love, as intelligence. Mind is creative power, ever operative, ever creating, eternally making something, and matter as the thing that it makes. You and I are dealing primarily simply with spirit and mind, and the form in thought, rather than the form in matter. We have learned in our experience that when we get the true form in thought and permeate it with the spirit, we shall see the thing made flesh without any further effort on our part. We are dealing then with nature unseen and invisible, but we are more and more leaning on an invisible force operating upon an unseen plan. Now, it is not enough to teach this. It is not enough to hear it. It is not enough to come here and learn that all is mind. Every living individual has got to take that mind and do something with it. The longer I study metaphysics, the plainer it becomes to me that it is just like everything else in life. There is very little that one soul can contribute to the welfare of another. Very little indeed. There is very little that I can offer to you, excepting to offer for your consideration that which I, as an individual, absolutely know to be true. I have yet to speak in public on anything that I have not proven. 2 talks are all that I have ever given in my life that I have not proven, and they were supposed to be theoretical, and I announced them as such. It is not enough that I should know, and don't make the mistake that the ordinary person makes of thinking that it is enough. There is no treatment that I can give you that will make you prosperous. There is no treatment I can give you that will heal you. Neither can any living soul. There is a treatment that I can create or know for you which will set in motion for you a power of mind which is outside the objective knowing of both of us. And if you receive that, it will heal you. The same with prosperity. There is too much in metaphysics, because there is as yet little understanding of this thinking, that you can take a treatment and go out in the street and find money or be healed, when the cause is not cured that causes that disease. That is not the case. The study of metaphysics is the study of the activity of mind. It is the one activity there is in the universe. There is nothing that moves only when mind moves it, and there never was and never will be any motion unless it is a motion of mind. There was never a thing appeared on this planet, but what there was, a mental image behind the thing. So long as the mental image exists, with the amount of vitality the almighty power has put in it, the thing in objective life exists to destroy itself, because the image is withdrawn. And what is the thing that moves everything? The study of metaphysics is the study of the mind. We have everything that it is worth your time to know in psychology, but we do not teach it from the standpoint of limited psychology. We are studying mind from the standpoint of its universal operation, and it is an entirely different thing. We are studying it from the standpoint that it is the only power that makes everything that is. We are thinking in universal mind and setting in operation therein for that individual a concept, and it is received directly from the universal mind, and if it is received from it, it will heal them. Now, it is the study of metaphysics, the study of mind, the law of operation of thought, and we investigate a thing, we find we made a result. We say there must be a principle behind it. This is the way that advance has been made in all science of all times. They take something that they know, and from that they go out into the unknown always. And if you can do that, whether or not you can see the process, and by using a certain combination of thought, realize that thought, mind and spirit, using them as you see fit, is not only a power and a great power or some power or a wonderful power, but that it is the only power. You get a certain result and it never fails. You have the right to say you have made a scientific discovery and say there is a principle behind that, and you can prove that you have the right to draw the most far-fetching conclusions. And that is the way the principle of metaphysics has been discovered and taught. From today, we know more about metaphysics than 50 years ago or 10 years ago. But the principle itself, we do not know any more about than they did 10,000 years ago. We only know that we can use it. And the practice of metaphysics is the practice of a systematic system of thinking which arises from your consciousness. It is a systematic turning of all belief in limitation, in sickness, in death, in hell, in damnation, in evil, in everything that is unsatisfactory out of your thought, and turning into your thinking everything that is just the opposite. Turn that which is negative into that which is beautiful, that which is loving, that which is harmonious. I have no mind of my own to think with. In a certain sense I have, but there is mind flowing through all. I want you to get this difference because it is all the difference between psychology and metaphysics. This is no criticism of psychology. Psychology is a preparation for metaphysics. All people who are teaching metaphysics, no matter what they call it, are teaching there is but one mind, and you and I are using it. And that mind is all creative and all powerful and flows through our consciousness and makes what we think. It has never been a thought which you or I have projected through our consciousness, but that this infinite mind created the thing for the thinker. I want you to see how important this is because next Monday night we are beginning the actual practice. I say mind is all conscious intelligence. Law is mind in action. Did you ever stop to think you cannot see any law? Behind it, there is the unseen. That is what we call mind. So all law is some activity of mind doing something. No living soul can contribute one iota of happiness or peace or health or happiness to your life. And no living soul can take one iota away only as you allow it to flow through your consciousness. And there is nobody here that knows that better than I do. If I'm treating you, I'm simply declaring into this mind about you. That is what Jesus meant when he said, "It is done unto you." And you do not have to do it unto yourselves. With your limited thought, you will not know how to do it unto yourselves. I do not know what it is, but we call it mind. And that is as good as a name as any for it. Its only instrument is thought, and all law, whether it is law that is today, this minute, causing your heart to beat, your blood to circulate, and food to digest, or whether it is the law holding this planet in its place. There is no time to mind in action. Law is mind in action. Did you ever stop to think you cannot see any law? Behind it, there is the unseen. That is what we call mind. So all law is some activity of mind doing something. Now, of course, mind is intelligent. What we mean by intelligence is probably very limited. I say mind is a self-conscious intelligence. It knows what it is doing, and it is conscious that it is doing it. It knows how to think, how to reason, how to analyze. Of course, infinite mind does not reason the way you and I do objectively. All of our reasoning is based on the supposition that somewhere there is a limit. Infinity knows there is no limit and could reason only from the supposition that behind the impulse is the mind of God. I am, and opposed to me there is nothing. And that is why God in the Bible is called I am. This infinite I am is the principle, is that which we announce as the principle through which we demonstrate. We speak forth into mind, and mind takes our thought and does it unto us. No, that individual who can most implicitly believe that mind is going to do it is the one who is going to get the biggest result. The person who sees mind as law and through it an activity of spirit, whose sole impulsion is God, I find that such people get remarkable results over the people who operate through a cold principle. Everybody has to. I cannot talk about my idea of God. That is my idea and my business, and it could not be anybody else's. But there is an impersonal principle of mind which does unto the thinker what he thinks, and the sooner you know it, and to learn to control your thought, the sooner you will be able to heal your body and control your conditions. And until you do learn it, your conditions control you. Now, bodies and conditions never operate or act. They are always operated and acted upon. Here lies the principle of demonstration. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are proving this. Now, herein is the great relief from all responsibility. That mind acts upon thought, and you and I will say, for the sake of clearness, we do not have to project into universal mind a definite thought or pattern or image or belief. Can't you see it is all the same thing? You may not get a definite knowledge of what you wanted, but you feel it. It is the same thing. Mind acts upon it, and it creates that thing, taking it as a pattern. Mind molds it out into what we call matter. Now, suppose you were healing Mary Smith in New York City. That is just what will happen. You will make all your statements of truth that form your realization of whatever you were going to do. But what you would be doing would be this. You will be directing mind to act upon Mary Smith's body, and it will heal it. It will operate through her consciousness. You will not be dealing with a physical body. For instance, here, not so long ago, I treated a certain individual for what is called a false growth. We will not name it. In this particular instance, I did not happen to see the person. There is no absence in thought. This is the way I thought, as near as I can remember. I at first always try to realize within my consciousness that I am not dealing with matter. You see, I am not struggling to overcome a condition. Everything that appears in anybody's body is thought. There is not anything else to appear into form. I know if the thought is destroyed, the image of thought will leave the body. Here is this person and mine, and it has operated upon that person as a false belief. That person accepted it and may have been ignorant of it. but somewhere there is a picture in mind, or that itself will not be there. I'm seeking to know the truth right where I'm disregarding where they may be, and as I succeed and they receive it will be done. So I know I'm not dealing with matter or a false growth at all. I'm simply handling a false concept. And where am I handling it? I'm handling it within myself. And when it is gone from my mind, absolutely, remember this, as I know and that patient is receptive to law, that patient will be healed, always. If the patient is not healed, then things have not been opened. Either the patient is not receptive or the practitioner has not realized it in mind. Realizing that I was not dealing with conditions, I was dealing with thought, I obliterate from my mind anything that says there is power in this false thought. I say my word has the power within it to annul everything pertaining to this false thought. For instance, my word has the power of annulling the belief that people have got to be sick. It has the power to operate upon and annul every man-made law, and it will leave nothing that says we can be sick, suffer, and die. It leaves nothing but pure spirit substance. Do not think of the body itself in making your realization. I do not think I use many denials, but I use an affirmation. I will say my word announces that so-called law. That covers all that is covered by a denial, but at the same time erases the false concept. People sometimes wonder if they are good enough to heal. Of course you are, but you will not always have the same degree of consciousness. You can be just right. You do not have to be abnormal or unnatural. Be an impulsive sort of person just like anybody else. Every living soul that lives is dealing with universal law and they cannot help it. If God knew sin, God would be a sinner. You and I must know with our thoughts. All disease is the result of wrong thinking somewhere. It all comes from false thought, and you and I must know that our word is the power to annul that. Since everything is mind in a neutral state, an impersonal, receptive, and creative state, whatever is thought into mind is going to do. If you have thought all your life that you were so and could be sick, that has got to be annulled in mind about you. And that is the difference between psychological healing, which suggests to the mentality of the patient that things are all right, and as long as that hypnotic state holds over them, they are well, but there is almost invariably a reaction. 9 out of every 10 people who are healed by psychological methods have a relapse. There is very seldom a relapse in metaphysical healings because it is the belief in mind about them. I can only just touch on the steps. I have studied and taught this for 7 or 8 years and worked it out. Whatever you will get out of this, you will get out of yourself. After hearing about it, you have got to take these things and think them out for yourself. If they are not true, it is the biggest fake in the world. Many people think they are wonderful thinkers, and they are not thinking at all. To think is to think right straight through to the bottom until there is nothing left to think about, to find out about that particular thing. If anything comes up in your experience and you want to dissolve it, there is a mental reason behind it. Now, for the ordinary individual, in a sort of weak-kneed way, there is too much hanging on to somebody's neck. Either hang on your own neck or hang by the neck. There is a mystery to nothing except the mystery of life, and nobody knows anything about that. If anything comes up in our lives, we want to know how to get rid of it. And if I can get right in 100 years on this planet, I do not care where I came from and where I'm going. I want to be 100% efficient today and be a normal human being, active and living. 100% efficient to the human race. And that is all we need. And if something comes up in your life that ought not to be, or in mine, I must not necessarily find out the reason, and yet I must cover the reason with the truth. For instance, if you take a person who is unhappy, now there is something wrong in that life. Is it a feeling of loneliness? It must be healed. That thing must not only be changed, but if that person is suffering because of lack of friends, it must be faced scientifically, working it out, attracting friendships. That mind that is me is in you, and when I know within my mind that which is truth, it will draw unto me whatever I want or whoever I want. Not that I operate on them, I know nothing about them. It is because it is the one mind flowing through all and unifying everything that is alike through the great law of attraction. Like attracts like, always. Poverty is an abnormal condition. Poverty is the result of inefficiency. Poverty is not the result of the lack of opportunity. Not in yourself, not anywhere. Poverty is the result of inefficiency or ignorance. And if you and I learn to deal with the only mind there is, we will no longer be poor. We can attract to ourselves people and things which will obliterate that poverty. It will be a law of gravity, no other thing but principle. When you set in motion a power of mind, don't you be surprised what happens. Don't be surprised if someone comes from the most unheard of source ever dreamed of. So it was with an unusually big thing that someone wanted to help on. It involved a very large expenditure on somebody's part, and when these people brought it to me, there had been no activity for many years, but it was a perfectly legitimate proposition, and I said, let's try it. If we can believe that we are dealing with a power that is infinite, that power will direct the way. And so I treated it every day. After a while, there were inquiries for the first time in years, and by different parties and different things came into it, and then a few more weeks the thing was done. That was the direct answer to a metaphysician's way of praying. I had an argument in a legal way over that. A man said this was not prayer, and I said it was prayer because it was our way of invoking divine intelligence to bless us. It is our way of praying. We believe that when we speak, that word is the very presence and power and activity of as much of God as we believe in while we speak, and to prove it, most remarkable things happen. I'm telling you all these things in sort of a jumble. Everybody has got to heal themselves. There is no other way. I can tell you these things, but you have to make the application. These are pointers. Another thing, be absolutely impersonal about your work. Suppose I wanted to treat myself for something. I call out my own name right out in mind and treat it just as if it was somebody I have never heard of before. Just as disinterestedly as I can, so that the consciousness of fear will not crowd. I find this, and it is the experience of all metaphysicians, and the more you can work that way, the better results you can give, the better results you can get. You get a greater consciousness than you do when you bear in your consciousness the limitation of your limitations and your fears. Do not limit your affirmation about God. Link God up with yourself, for we see there is one life, perfect, that is God. I have got to see this life is in me now. That is what made Jesus the Christ. He said, "My Father and I are one." Be absolutely impersonal. Another thing, do not treat yourself too much. If you want to, treat yourself as many as 3 times a day for about 10 or 15 minutes. 3 times a day to realize the truth. Of course, you must have this if you expect to get results. If you cannot do it, then it is perhaps a good practice to begin with to first of all get absolutely at one with yourself. No disgruntled, unhappy sort of a person can do much in metaphysics. That will be the first thing to begin with, so you can get a sense of peace and satisfaction, calm and serenity. There must be a center in you. You're dealing with a power that is absolute. It is a conception that is limitless. It learns things out of itself. God makes things from what you think. Everything comes into visibility from the invisible. Know it no longer has any power over you, that thing which denies the right of mind. Then affirm the truth until you realize the thing that is. More and more, you will realize that you are dealing with things. Faith is a mental attitude which actually takes hold of the substance which exists and brings it right before the eyes of the person as an evidence that the thing did exist. The Bible says, "The things which are seen are not made of the things which do appear." Now then, that is true of all life, and you must know it. You must know this, and it is a most important part of your treatment, that we are going forth into this mind. We are not a projection of God. We are not a manifestation forth from God. We are not a reflection of an image forth from God. We are at the center of God consciousness, and it could not be otherwise. There is nothing but what we call God to make you out of. Whatever there is of you is something or some part of God, because there is nothing else to make you out of. So know that you are the center of God consciousness, and that is why your word is infinite. Speak it forth, believing and never doubt it. You know, you just believe, and then you speak forth this word, knowing that it announces everything which seems to oppose it. It announces that so-called law of matter. Know that it is the law of harmony and adjustment. It is the law of justice, for that is what you need. It is the law of balance. It is the law of increase. It is the law of plenty. It is the law of activity, even if there is no activity. It is the law of attraction. If you need something, it is all that there is, and you realize that word becomes. It goes forth upon this power implicitly. You will treat until you just feel sure within yourself that that is true. Then you will go about your business in a normal sort of way, being very careful and watching how you think. Feel that you have planted in the soil of mind the seed of definite thought. The law of growth will operate upon it. Declare that it is eternal, that it can fulfill, that it will work and work until it perfectly fulfills itself. So in our practice, during the coming weeks, we are going to come right along and work out definite problems. Take as many things as you can think of clearly, but whatever you do, be definite. I know of no other way to demonstrate unless you are definite. There is no other way. I see in this universe nothing but evidence of definiteness, and I'm compelled to believe that intelligence is definite. Every planet appears definitely in a place and is definitely controlled. And if we are going to deal with intelligence, we have got to deal with it in a definite manner. Nothing is left to chance in this universe. Everything is working by a perfect law of cause and effect. Be absolutely definite. Know what you want. When Jesus turned the water into wine, they had asked for wine. He did not turn it into buttermilk. We will take these things up, each one realizing that there is a universal one which manifests itself into a multiplicity of ideas, and also that it can manifest as many things for us as we can conceive. So taking these definite things, let us see that it will definitely work. We will take certain forms. We can work spontaneously for 1 week, and then we shall take definite forms. So we shall each learn what the metaphysical principle is by demonstrating it. It is the only way. Let us be something definite and do something and do it well. We will learn by doing and not by reading or hearing, but by doing.